please take the roll.
Levine, Bill McGuire, Rick Flynn.
Here.
Mike Burns.
Here.
David Pyle.
Here.
Bob McAfee. LaDonna Allen.
Here.
Roger Smith.
Here.
Would everyone stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance? Ouch. In the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you pray with me? Eternal God, as we begin another session of the Carl Junction Board of Alderman, we ask that you arouse in our hearts a hunger and a thirst for justice and peace, so that our actions will be guided by the desire to secure justice and equality for every member of our community. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Next up, we need to approve the agenda. If there's any changes, not I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 5-0 with, 5 with 3 absent. Next is the consent agenda, which is approval of the past minutes and disbursements.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by David Powell, second by Roger Spencer to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 5 with 3 absent. Next, let me see, I prepared myself to change this one. Next, public forum. Is there anybody that would like to address the council in public forum? Steve, would you like to read the disclaimer? Because I don't even know where it is. Or
I don't think it was.
Nobody
wants to.
Nobody wants to.
Nobody wants to. Okay. Last call. We're moving on. Speak up for everybody. Next, ordinances. First is an ordinance approving a contract with OWN for engineering services for the Route Z Pinhall Sidewalk Project Phase 6.
We would put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Roger Spencer. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Elena.
An ordinance approving a contract between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and Owen Incorporated to provide professional engineering services for the design and construction phases for sidewalk improvements along Route Z, Pinell Street, Phase 6, Federal Aid Project TAP-9900759 in the city of Carl Junction for sums which will not exceed $40,097.10 for design services and $34,398.77 for construction services, and such additional services and reimbursable expenses as provided in the contract, providing the terms and conditions thereof, and authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute said contract for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any discussion? Questions? Mike?
Guess I just don't recognize Own Incorporated.
Anderson Engineering changed their name.
Okay, I thought that. Okay.
And that was the issue that Mike Talley had at the previous meeting, is that it still said
Okay.
Anderson in it, and then the paperwork says Own.
Any other questions, discussion? Steve, anything you need to add before we move forward?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to put this ordinance on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Rick Flynn, to put this ordinance on second reading by title only. We don't need a vote, do we?
No,
The clerk, I'm sorry, I voted first.
you just read it.
An ordinance approving a contract between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and Owen Incorporated to provide professional engineering services for the design and construction phases for sidewalk improvements along Route Z, Pinell Street, Phase 6, Federal Aid Project TAP-9900759 in the city of Carl Junction for sums which will not exceed $40,097.10 for design services and $34,398.77 for construction services, and such additional services and reimbursable expenses as provided in the contract, providing the terms and conditions thereof, and authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute said contract for and on behalf of the the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to put this on final passage.
Move to put this on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Roger Spencer to put this ordinance on final passage, since I can vote, to go to electronic voting. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. 5 in favor with 3 absent. Are we ready to vote electronically?
Yep.
Okay. Please vote.
The vote is 5 in favor and 3 absent. Motion passes.
Elena, what is that?
2327.
Excuse me, the next is an ordinance approving change order number 1 with Capital Paving and Construction, LLC.
Make a motion, we put this on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Rick Flynn, to put this on first reading by title only. With the clerk, please.
An ordinance approving change order number 1 to an agreement between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and Capital Paving and Construction LLC to complete Route Z Pinell Street Sidewalk Improvements Phase 5 Federal Aid Project number TAP-9900757 for the city of Carl Junction, Missouri. Said change order number 1 being to balance overruns and underruns for a total decreased cost of $2.97 and decreasing the total contract cost to $481,968.79. And authorizing the mayor to execute said change order number 1 for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Have you seen anything like this before? I don't remember ever seeing a change order for less than $5. It seems like, they hit their estimates so close, but $2.97 off.
I think, no, not really. We usually don't see these. They usually just eat it and we go about.
Yeah, I mean, the paperwork is.
This one, because there's so many different items on there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Gotcha.
9
Just so
different
happened
changes
that
on
the
there.
Pluses and minuses. were-
Yeah, the pluses and minuses, and that's why to
I
get
see.
the contract correct.
Yeah, it makes
And
sense.
it also involved getting the drawings correct too, so.
It is, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Is this anything that we can do at the city level by statute or anything, that if it is under a certain dollar amount, that especially where it's a $2.97 credit, that we don't have to do an ordinance, or do we have to do that?
I would have to check with Mr. Talley on that. We don't have anything currently, but
Just, it's a $500,000 project almost, and we got a change order for less than $3, so.
And I may have missed it in the detail, but was the driveway amendment part of that change order as well?
it was not. The conversation with the engineering firm and the contractor is because of the way that was done, that was never authorized or wasn't even started by the city. And if the contractor wanted to bill that resident for it, he could. But it was nothing that the city had authorized or wanted, so.
Any other discussion?
So that's between the contractor and the resident.
If, any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion for second reading.
Make motion, we put it on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Rick Flynn, to put this second reading by title only. Elena, would you please read the title?
An ordinance approving change order number 1 to an agreement between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and Capital Paving and Construction LLC to complete Route Z Pinell Street Sidewalk Improvements Phase 5 Federal Aid Project number TAP-9900757 for the city of Carl Junction, Missouri. Said change order number 1 being to balance overruns and underruns for a total decreased cost of $2.97 and decreasing the total contract cost to $481,968.79. And authorizing the mayor to execute said change order number 1 for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any other discussion?
Will we put this on final passage? I'll second that.
motion by Rickman, second by Mike Burns to put this on final passage. This is a hand vote to go to electronic vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. 5 in favor, 3 absent. We'll go to electronic vote if you're ready. Please vote.
It's 5 in favor, 3 absent. The ordinance passes.
Elena, what is our ordinance?
2328.
All right, next up is reports. First, we have the long-term project report. Any questions, discussions on anything? Steve, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I was gonna bring this up, new business or something, but being that the splash pad is on the long-term projects monthly report, I guess, you're having some issues, and I don't know what those are. I've just been following along on Facebook. Is it something that we're gonna get worked out here?
I certainly hope so. It's all been under warranty
That's
so
good.
far, the two, and it's been the main circulation pump motor is what's burned out
Same thing twice?
both times. Yep. In some of the research that I've done on those motors, they make a very similar motor that has a fan built into the body in it. The ones that we've been getting do not have that fan in them. They make it in those 2 different models. Whether that's the issue or not, I mean, we have ventilation in that building, a high and a low vent so that fresh air does come in. We don't know. We've had the electrician down there. He's checked all the voltage, make sure there's no voltage drops, make sure the amp draws are well within specs, and everything seems to check out fine. We got 9 days out of that first one and 13 days out of this one. This one, it should be in here this week. They were shipping it in from Louisville, Kentucky.
How long do we have to, under warranty, how long do we have to get this figured
1
out?
year. So I think if this one doesn't last, I'm going to request a change to that other style of pump and motor.
I'm sure they want to rather than keep sending you.
I would think so too. I actually found just the motor itself. I could have got it in, but it would have cost us about $1,500 just for the motor, and I could have had it in 2 days, 3 days max. But since it's a unit, it's what they want to replace because there's nothing wrong with the pump itself. It's the motor that's burning out.
Should we, maybe, I know we've got everything on the timer. Do you think part of the problem is that we've got it running continuously for that long? Should we somehow set the timer so like every hour, maybe it goes down for like 5-10 minutes to allow the motor maybe to cool?
It runs in 10-minute increments already. Of course, with the kids down on there, as soon as it goes off, they're going to run over there and
Yeah.
punch the button again. That motor is a continuous duty rated motor. It is supposed to be able to handle that type of thing.
I don't know. Say, I'm sure you've seen, there's a lot of misinformation right now on social media. Everything from it's went down 5 times, which it hasn't, to, it's costing us all this money. It's under warranty. And I guarantee if anybody was in there when Steve let me know what was happening with it, there's probably nobody in this town that was more frustrated than I was, or if he was. So,
Yeah, and the contractor, he is just as frustrated as what I was when I met him down there. That because this is costing him money too. He makes a trip down from Gardner, Kansas, up by Kansas City. He has to make a trip down here to do it. So he loses money too. He's not going to be able to recoup any of that.
and unfortunately, when you're dealing with those kind of components, I mean, you don't expect to have two that go out
No.
that close, and maybe it is some problem with their specs on the manufacturing end, which we're not responsible for, the designers, the contractors.
It's,
Short of going and screaming through the window at the factory,
I am not an electronic engineer by far, but when I read the specs on that motor does not have thermal protection on it, which would kick out the motor if it got hot, and then you just have to manually reset it. These motors don't have that on there. And for the life of me, I can't think why somebody would spec a motor like that in a situation where it is a continuous duty motor. So it's burning the motor up before the breaker goes off, but the breaker is set correctly.
can we go back to the company that we bought it from even, or whoever spec'd it, and go ahead and get this one installed when it comes in, but get them to change it over?
That's what I'm going to try to do.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't even wait until it went out again, if we can push the issue this week and try to, like say, when it's got the built or
Yeah.
whatever, because all we need is to be another 9 or 10 days and then go out again. There'll be a run.
I think it was it Wednesday or Thursday last week that it went out? Day after the second
It was
Tuesday.
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday, yeah.
So, I think maybe if there's any way we can get a little proactive and really push back and try to get that other pump in. So, I don't know what lead time would be on that, or to see if they can change the specs. As much as we got into it, I wouldn't want to pay for the, I mean, I would think for the goodwill of everything, that somebody would be willing to cover that cost.
You would hope so.
So, I mean, anything else on the long-term?
Yeah, I'll ask about a couple more things on here. Do we have an idea on when we're going to start with the Lakeside Park Pavilion? I know it says on there we're waiting for approval from Moparks, but still waiting on approval.
No, we still have to go out for bid on it, so.
Have
It'll be
we
a,
got the approval from Moparks, or do we have any idea when?
We have preliminary approval. There's a couple of things that they want to know about on it that we've asked Parkman and us for. So Moparks has been great to work with on this whole thing. I think Crystal sent him that stuff yesterday, and she sent us an email back today asking a couple of questions and saying thank you. So,
How about ball field lighting?
waiting on the contractor to get down there to put them in.
Did we have a timeline on that? I thought we had like 30 days or something when we approved it.
The project, 30 days on the project to get it completed, but we had
Infinite start date on there? I mean,
we had a 5 or 6 week wait on just getting the lights in.
Right.
So you
like, have
have
we
that
started
sorted.
that clock for the 30 days? I'm saying for,
You don't start that clock.
we haven't got everything in yet, is what you're saying, so.
We do. We just got everything in a week ago.
Okay.
So that 30 days is clicking now.
I have a question on the optics. I had a couple people ask me about, are they gonna come back and fix yards? I know there's a lot of rock, like, in our neighborhood right now, they just started and they got big piles of rocks and.
They do. They finally came and fixed my yard a month probably after they'd been in it. But yeah, they are. They come through.
I told them, that's what I tell people, they're supposed to come back. but
Yeah.
Some people, they're still waiting. We're in the first section. I think.
I still got to go through and pick up rocks, because they didn't get all of them, but still got to pick up a few rocks.
Plant grass on there. So.
Yeah, they spread seed and put straw on it and topsoils.
I will say, I know a resident that after they got done, the seed hunter washed off or something wasn't right, and they called them and they did come back out and fix the issues, so.
So far, I think that they've been very responsive to the residents. I haven't heard of anybody having to make multiple calls to them to try to get something done.
I had an individual tell me today that they had an issue and they got a prompt call back and resolution.
The people that I talked to didn't say they called them, they were just asking. They're gonna come out and fix that.
Anything else on the long term?
What about the Lakeside Trail? I guess I'm not 100% familiar exactly where you're talking about, where it doesn't qualify for the funding because it's a multi-use park. What
Yeah,
part?
because we allow basically because we allow golf carts on it, we won't be able to use federal money on. We can, but then they couldn't drive their golf carts on it. That's not gonna work right there.
Small time traffic. All right.
And Steve, anything to add before we go on to department report?
No, man.
Okay, moving on, department reports, we have public works in front of us. Anybody have any comments or questions for public works on the report? If not, we will move on to the PD.
I'll make a quick comment before we move on. I want to commend them for being out there and getting things tidied up and looking nice for the second Tuesday event. They, right up to the day of,
Yeah.
we're getting things taken care of. It looked real nice.
It was, and it was a great turnout, and yeah, the park really looked nice, and moving tables and everything else.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I drove by early in the morning and there was no sun, and then it seemed like 10 minutes later there was like a bunch of sun. It's like, oh my gosh, he hasn't messed around with us.
Took a lot for it.
That sod is,
Grass.
it's Bermuda, so it's gonna look dead
Yeah,
until,
You can see it now starting to green up already.
Yeah, it was a good.
yeah, I drove by it tonight. Looked good.
Well, and it does have a lot of people down there using it, so as soon as we move back up.
Sunshine will help it.
Two things Bermuda love, heat and rain.
You got a boat?
Couldn't pick a better sod to put down there with all that water.
Okay, next PD report. Everybody had a chance to look over it, any,
You're gonna be FBI agent now? Is that what I-
Just go to the week-long class. This is basically a series of classes. They call it a seminar, where they have day courses and evening courses for the whole week.
That'd be cool.
Any update on this deal that happened on the 5th?
The theft,
Yeah,
the motorhome was recovered on an off-road down in Newton County. It was trashed. They actually tore out the walls to get the copper wiring and stuff. Busted all the windows out of it. Had wrecked it into something. So it total loss on it. They have we believe we know who it was, who is now in custody. However, we don't have anything to tie him to the theft yet. We are waiting on some items that's been sent to the lab for fingerprints, like a jar of marijuana.
that'll work.
So we're hoping that the glass jar will get us some good fingerprints and put him on inside of it.
anything else for police? Okay, is that all we have on this one? Those two.
Do you need anything for that cookout?
Do what?
Do you need anything for the cookout?
We already had it.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, it was this past weekend.
Oh, I was gonna come get a cheeseburger.
You just wanted free hamburger, wasn't
Yeah, you were offering, but we know.
Here's some.
Okay, if there's no more questions on department reports, we will move to committee reports. Rick, anything for code?
No, ma'am.
Roger, anything
No.
for HR? I was gonna go to Mike. Mike, public facilities.
I don't have anything new, but I think we probably ought to plan a meeting for either before the next council meeting or some afternoon, the next week and a half or so. I'm pretty flexible.
Do you want to do a joint with the budget committee, so as items come up, kind of like we did before?
Yeah,
we can
and
fight that?
there's a lot of overlap anyway, so that's fine.
So the July 4th, that week, next week, July 4th, we moved that meeting to the 11th. So we could do something, if people are gonna be here, 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Let's do it one of those days in the afternoon.
I'm not sure when I will be back.
Okay.
Let's not do it one of those days.
But you can do one.
How about like July 10th? July
Monday afternoon, Monday evening.
Monday afternoon sounds fine.
Okay.
You want to do like 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I'm good anytime actually, so
Rick,
mornings are better.
does Monday work for you? Rick,
I'm gonna be in South Dakota that week. I'm not on.
you're on
I'm not on.
budget.
Oh. Yeah, I guess I'm out of town either way. That's fine. Sorry.
In other words, you don't want to put it.
Well, I guess we
Schedule it for that day, and if we need to.
Yeah, July
change something.
10th, then at 3
3
p.m.
p.m. Okay.
And then we can let Holly and
Yeah.
Bob know, make sure there's no conflict. Basically, we kind of had some overlap on that because that's what, for budget committee, basically, I think we all need to sit down together, go over, Elena has got us a, budget activity report printed out and our vet and all of that, so we can have all those numbers in front of us. Sit down and do that. I know you had wanted to prioritize some stuff, Steve, so maybe we've got these big projects that are priority, but maybe we can even knock out some of the small ones, like we talked about before, get those off the list of what we've got.
Yeah, I've got that list of all those projects and everything that we'll use it also on Saturday, so don't forget on Saturday for our meeting at 9 a.m. And you can, 2 expectations. One is that there will be a few people show up. We have no idea how many. There will be some people that will want to talk about anything other than what is on that list, that's for sure. And you need to be prepared for any and all comments that they will make. Good, bad, ugly, accusatory, whatever, they're gonna make them. You'll have to be prepared for that. Just like we get them on social media, whether there's any truth to them or not, it really doesn't matter. They're more likely not to get that extreme when it's in person and face to face, of course. But and I'll make sure everybody has that list so that, we can ask them, what do you think is a high and low priority? And we can even ask them to mark that list up and basically number it 1 through 30 or whatever's on there if we want to get an idea on it.
And what are the final times that we decided on 9 a.m. to 11?
9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
And,
here in the senior center.
and as we go into unfinished stuff here. Got a couple questions on that. Anything else on committee reports before we move forward? If not, unfinished business. David, do you have any unfinished business?
Not tonight, no.
Mike?
I do not.
The only thing I have that we just brought up on the event Saturday morning from 9 to 11, I know the mayor had hoped that we could have at least 1 alderman from each ward present. Does anybody know if they're going to be able to be there?
I plan to be there.
David?
I'll be there.
Okay, so we had, and I plan on being there, so I know we have 1 from 2, 3, and 4. We may not have 1, depending on when Holly gets back to town or the health.
She said she would be there.
She is, okay.
No, not.
Oh, she's
She would
not.
be there, not on Saturday.
So we may not.
We may not have
May not
anybody
have one.
because Bill has pneumonia.
Got it. Alderman under the weather. Okay, well, if nothing else, if we can get 3 there at least, and then Roger, if you want to show up, we can definitely have 2.
I'll try my best. We have a baseball
Well-
tournament out of town, but I might miss a game or whatnot. So
And like I say, at least if Rick is there, it'll be.
Well, I just have to play it by ear because we go up to Springfield, pick our daughter up, and bring her back with us because she's got Alzheimer's.
So very sorry. Very sorry. Okay, that was basically the only unfinished I had, was just a reminder on that. Roger, do you have any unfinished?
No.
Rick?
Just more along the lines of that, we'd asked last time about bids, or are you gonna look at the exact cost of what it would cost to fix the pool?
Well, I can't. I can't get an exact.
Maybe not exact, but
Yeah, but
we have that.
I mean, that
900
900,000 to 1.2 million is a huge swing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we don't know how many yards of concrete it's gonna take. We don't know how much pipe it's gonna take. We don't know how much, and there's really no way of getting those numbers unless we turn it over to the engineer and have him work it up as a project and spend that money to do that, to work it up as a project.
I just feel like that's definitely gonna be a question. Like, why aren't we fixing it? How much is it gonna cost? And right now we have $500,000
Yeah.
guesstimate, swing prices.
I know we kind of touched on this last time, Steve, also, and talked about we could provide the information we had to a group that thought they could give us numbers, but it was going to be several, several thousand to get anything done up. Any ideas what it would cost to get an engineer in to tell us what the repairs would be, or to just completely demolish it and replace?
The demolition cost, I can get that for you pretty easy. The repair cost in getting an engineer in, I could get a consultant in, there's a couple of them, and you're looking at $200 an hour, just like an engineer is to do that type of thing. And so, depending on how much time they spend on it, it'd be pretty easy. It'd be pretty easy to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on one.
Just to get an estimate of what.
Well, to get if it was a repair, you would get a design with it too of what the repair was going to be, and you would get a more itemized cost estimate. It would be at a point where you could actually put it out for bid. You would get it up to that point.
In the rough estimate, is that full scope work that we're being told is mandatory that must be done, or is some of that optional things that might be an improvement, but that wouldn't necessarily have to be done to make the pool function?
No, that was the mandatory stuff to bring it up to current pool standards. Our pool slopes into the pool. The gutter system, they don't use that type of gutter system anymore because of how inefficient it is. So you're basically cutting out all of that deck, pouring new concrete there and putting in a whole new gutter system. And you got to go in and you got to plug up the supply lines underneath. So, and there's probably other things that have to be done to it too.
Would that be to meet a legal code and required code?
Yeah,
or-
that's Missouri. There is a code on pools for commercial pools. It is, I want to say CPSI. I don't remember for sure what the acronym is, but there is one that you have to build into these codes because of like the suction ports in the bottom of the pool. They have to be with certain covers, certain diffusers on them, so that it doesn't hold the body down when it gets. So it's taking care of that type of thing.
I'm just thinking, by this Saturday, obviously, we're not gonna have any of that information.
No.
And that, I may be wrong, but I don't know. That's a question I'd be asking us. Why are we not fixing the pool?
It is, that's where we could bring a consultant in and we could find out then, is it better off to demolish and repair it, or is it better to build a whole new type of aquatic facility, or is it something that we just want to demolish and fill in and find something better to do with the land and keep the bathrooms and the building, that type of thing, as a shelter, whatever, we could bring in a consultant to do that type of thing.
That's all I have.
Well, and hopefully, like I say, after Saturday, we can decide. I don't think people still understand why the pool is closed. I think they think, well, we just made the decision that we didn't want to mess with the pool, this year, and barely kept up. I mean, we couldn't even keep up with the water loss last year, right? They were running it
All the time.
full time, and we still couldn't keep the water levels up because the leaks were so bad. I mean, pool dates back 1974, was it 75 when it actually opened, maybe?
I think so.
But I don't think people still understand, so hopefully Saturday when they're there, we can bring it up. I mean, I didn't even talk to Steve because people have mentioned a bond. Well, if you're going to do a bond, our bond does not roll off for 5 more years. So if we do a bond, it would have to be a tax increase, which then if you do one just to construct maybe a new pool, aquatic center, and then you look at maybe lumping a ball complex in. But if we do anything like that right now, even if it got approved, it would be a tax increase. We're gonna have to wait 5 years before we can roll that other one off to do a no tax increase.
So the city has no bonding capacity currently.
No, we have the bonding capacity, but it would be a tax increase to use up some of that. We've got a total capacity of about 11 million, I think is what it is. And we've got whatever's left on that bond to pay, not much, 2 or 3 million, something like that is.
But
The other thing, and I think a lot of people don't understand that we lost the why too as a manager. Carthage got their pool reopened, and they re-signed a contract with, I'm assuming it's Fair Acres Y, $100,000 a year for them to operate Carthage's pool. That's what they're paying Carthage Y.
Pool definitely don't make that.
Never. Pools don't make money regardless of what it is.
which we had been operating at a loss anyhow,
Yeah.
which, I mean, that was one of the amenities, that's one of the quality of life things willing to do, but when you can't operate it because of maintenance, not just maintenance issues, but the issues under there that need repairs, and then on top of that, even if we rebuilt it, I mean, with the cost of chemicals going up and everything else, what, 60, 75,000 minimum it will cost us a year to staff, do the chemicals.
Probably.
So, just things we might keep in mind when we're talking to people, because some of them have said, well, put a bond out there. We can do that, but even if we did a bond now, it wouldn't open for probably 2 years. By the time we got it through the ballot, got all of the bond issuance, got the money in, did all the engineering of the bids and started. We put it on April 2024, and it'd probably be 2026 before it would open. So, just. Oh, and any unfinished?
No.
Crystal?
No, me?
Steve?
No.
PD?
Nope.
Anybody else? New business. Start on this one. Rick, new business?
Nope.
Roger?
Nothing.
Okay. Couple things that I had. One, we had on the expenditures that we the disbursements, and we need to do it. But I had a concern on the disbursement on the judges' training. And I checked with Elena, and it's my understanding that he splits that training cost between the 5 jurisdictions, municipalities that he does. My problem with that, we need to budget if we are going to cover the judges' training. But also, it was 3 years training that we just got completed all at one time. We need, if we're going to pay a portion of that training, we need to get that in the same fiscal year that it happens. Because I don't understand why that was held for 3 years and then given to us reimbursement. Because if we're doing it out of the court budget, we need to budget for that on an annual basis, and we need it presented in the fiscal year. Those are my thoughts. If anybody has anything different, but I do not understand why we're paying 3 years at one time.
Did anybody ask you?
Well, I think that maybe it's something that we do need to address from the city standpoint, like to present those for reimbursement in more time. And we also need to know, it's my understanding that is it mandatory that he,
He does have to have a certain number of continuing education hours each year. I had forgotten about that, but yes, he does have to have a certain number every year. I don't know what that number is.
if we can kind of, we at least need to be able to budget for that on an annual basis, and I think it needs to actually come out of the fiscal year that he attends those. Those are my thoughts. So if we can maybe ask him to submit those in more time, we finish. There was one other thing, and I do not remember on that, so I may have to come back to it. Mike, any new business?
I don't have any new business. Also, my son's getting ready to start pitching, so we don't plan on voting on anything anymore, right? So we don't need a quorum. So
Well,
I'm going to go ahead and.
we do have the emergency. I forgot.
That's just a notification.
Okay,
You guys do ratify those, but you don't have to, but it is just a notification.
okay,
I'm going to go ahead.
Okay.
Enjoy.
all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay, David, before I get to you, did you put this in front of everybody, Steve?
Yes, everybody's got it.
Okay, so as you see, we had to have a emergency, repair. We've got 3 pumps down at wastewater treatment and 2 of them are out. The second one just went out,
All
right?
right, now all 3 of them.
Actually, there's 2 of them that are completely shot, 1 of them that's running at about 50%. And 4th pump went out over the weekend and what not.
So we currently have 1 pump running at 50%.
Yep,
And lead time on that,
12 to 13
up to
weeks.
13 weeks.
Is that
So
for both?
do I,
That's not the wet well pump, that is just the grass pumps.
Right, is that for, we got information on the flight, is the flight the same as?
Yes.
The same lead time as?
2 brands, Flight and KSB, and they're both at 12 to 13 weeks. And we're seeing that on everything electrical, or whatever, because I was talking to SNS today, and he's having problems getting things also. So it seems to be that we've got it down to mostly 14 months on the generator for this building. That's where we are now, and it's just waiting on it, and it's a component issue with electronics.
well, I do know that nationwide, they have been surveying electrical cooperatives and providers, because if they do not have generators back warehouse, they said a generator now, or not generator, I'm sorry, transformer, thank you, it's been a long day, that there is a 2-year wait on a transformer.
I have one of the listservs that I belong to is through Missouri Public Utilities Alliance. And I've seen more requests for sharing of transformers and the big switches that they use on things than I ever have before. People, you just can't get up.
If this pump that's running at 50%, can it handle what we have right now? Do we need to try to maybe reach out and see if anybody has a pump that we could get and replace with one?
Well, like the one for the wet well, we've done it before. We can get there's a water movers in Springfield. We've gotten a external diesel power pump that we can get. If that happens, then we can plumb in place and make it.
And for the wastewater?
Yeah.
Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed.
They're 9 years old. They were done with that last expansion that we did. They were all put in the same time, all the same brand, so they're timing out.
Are these the ones that they retrofit?
No.
They're not. All right, so since we do not have a quorum at this point, this is just an advisement on what we had to do. So we do not need to ratify it.
No. You don't have to ratify those to begin with. The mayor just likes it when you do.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like it if we could. It's gonna be done. So. David, to you, any new business?
No, ma'am.
Elena?
No, ma'am.
Crystal?
Yeah.
Steve?
Nope.
Anyone in the back? Probably Brooks. All right, if there's no other new business, anything else before the council?
No, we adjourn.
Can we adjourn without quorum?
That would be a quorum of those present.
Okay.
Please.
I'll second
Call Mike. Call Mike.
David. So motion by Rick Flynn, second by David, that we adjourn, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. We are four absent, we are adjourned.
We can't leave.